Steven about reusing old unpatched vulnerabilities.
Yeah, for Windows privilege escalation.
All right, so without further ado, please give a warm ShmooCon welcome for Steven.
All right, welcome back for lunch, everyone. So like he said, we're going to talk about recycling old vulnerabilities, stuff that most pen testers and red teamers already know about. We're going to put a little bit of a new twist on it and get a cool Windows privilege escalation that works in all versions of Windows last time we checked, which was just a couple days ago. And we also got a new kind of weird network attack out of it that we'll talk about. Who am I? So I'm Stephen Breen, known on the internet as Breen Machine. Yeah, I guess my little clip mic's not working very well. I came from a computer science and math background, former developer, all that kind of stuff, and now I do security consulting and penetration testing with NTT Com Security. Our team name at NTT Com Security is also known as Foxglove Security. That's why we have the logo on the slides. And we're also known as the guys who released that Java unserialized stuff not too long ago. Thanks. I'm also a big free diver, a bit of an ocean hippie, and a Canadian. So what you'll get out of this talk, I just wanted to break it down for the blue team and the red team. Blue team people can expect to get some insight into common misconfigurations. One sec, just let me sort out my slides here. And how they can be abused by attackers. Hopefully you guys can use this as ammo to get some budget and time to actually sort these issues out, because they're all really old and they're abused all the time. And we're just providing like another way to abuse those same things that people have been knocking away at for years. For people on the red team, you're going to get a new tool to perform Windows privilege escalation in Windows 7 Plus in default configurations. This takes advantage of issues marked as won't fix by Microsoft, so hopefully it's probably not going away anytime soon. We're also going to be providing a tool to do NBNS spoofing attacks outside of your broadcast domain. So right now, those sorts of attacks are confined to your local network. And I mean, it's pretty simple and trivial, but we actually implemented it, and we'll describe like how we did it and how it all works. And for those who don't know, we'll actually describe what it is as well. And we're going to be dropping all the code we use to do this, so that's going to include some C# libraries, which was actually probably the hardest part of doing this whole thing, that allows people to expand on this and continue building it out. All right, so I'm just going to go over some background. I'm going to cover in detail 3 well-known issues that probably a lot of people in the room already know about. NBNS spoofing, WPAD spoofing, and NTLM relay. These are all from like the year 2000, basically. The tool responder.py is kind of the go-to that a lot of people use to abuse these right now. And like a lot of people, it's the first thing they'll fire up on a pen test. We're going to add something a little like a new spin to all this, though. Okay, so I'm just going to go over what NBNS spoofing is for those who are unfamiliar. NBNS is actually it's a broadcast name resolution protocol. So you can think of it kind of like DNS. So if you want to look up, I don't know, the host name cats, you can use NBNS to look that up, or you could use DNS. In Windows, the way everything works is first it's going to check your host file, and it's going to see if the name you're trying to look up exists in the host file. If not, it's going to try to do a DNS lookup. And then if the DNS lookup fails, in default configurations, it falls back to NBNS. And NBNS basically just works on the honor system. So your computer is going to ask the entire broadcast domain on your network, hey, does anyone know the IP address for this host? And anyone can just respond to that. And people have obviously been abusing this forever. So I'm actually going to go through a little example with some screenshots and whatnot. All right, so here, just a quick example with Wireshark and Internet Explorer. So I typed cats into my browser bar, and you can see it searched Bing for cats. And on the right, you see all the network traffic that was generated. there's a whole bunch of stuff, like Windows machines are really noisy, especially our corporate images, so, like AI, that's just our domain. But but cats, you can see all those lookups occurred. That was a result of me typing cats into my browser bar. So I'm going to do the exact same thing while running the responder.py tool. And so this time, you see, it didn't search Bing. It actually, responder actually grabbed that request. So what happened is I searched cats. Windows did an NBNS lookup for cats. I have responder running on another system, and it replied with that system's IP address. And then Internet Explorer just went to that site as if it was, like it has an IP address for it. It hits it just like a normal website. And the interesting thing is, on the other machine where I was running responder, now you get my NTLM, net NTLM v2 hash. So what happened there is when Internet Explorer went to that website, the server requested authentication, and my Internet Explorer just authenticated. And we caught that. So you can either crack that, or you could do different things like use NTLM relay and pass it, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Yeah, so I went over most of this. If you read the slide, that's basically what happened. All right, so a little bit more about MBNS spoofing. So different versions of Windows use it in subtly different ways. So newer versions don't seem to fall back to NBNS if the domain is a fully qualified domain. Another interesting note is this doesn't just apply to Internet Explorer. So I showed, I showed NBNS spoofing and NTLM relay and IE, but actually a whole bunch of different Windows components, all of them actually, will fall back to NBNS when DNS fails. For people who are trying to fix this, you can just turn it off. Unfortunately, it might break things. So that's been a recommendation that's been out there forever. Everyone knows they should turn it off, but some people just can't. All right, so next we're going to talk about WPAD spoofing, because this is pretty intimately related to NBNS spoofing. So again, Internet Explorer this time in default configurations will attempt to look for the wpad.dat file for proxy auto configuration. So it's basically like, depending on what network it's on, it's going to look for this host. The host name is just wpad/wpad.dat. It's just going to look for that. And if it finds that file, it's going to use the contents of the file to configure the proxy server in Internet Explorer. So for anyone who was paying attention to the MBNS spoofing stuff, you can probably see the problem here. That host name, WPAD, it can just be spoofed by anyone on the network and have, they can perform a man-in-the-middle attack and have everyone who has Internet Explorer running into default configuration on that network, all their web traffic is going to be going through whatever the malicious host is. So I showed an example of a wpad.dat down at the bottom of this slide. That's all it takes. It's just like those 3 lines. You do MBNS spoofing, you would put them in that file, and then all the Internet Explorer's traffic would go through here. There's another fun fact that you probably won't read about in too many places, is it's not just Internet Explorer that uses these WPAD settings, and that's something I only found out about while we were doing this research. So we'll see that Windows services actually seem to look for the WPAD file too, even in cases where they're not supposed to, it's kind of funny. All right, so now the third old issue that this exploit relies on is NTLM relay. NTLM relay is a simple man-in-the-middle attack against NTLM authentication. And again, people have been using this forever. Some people hear about it and think, oh yeah, Microsoft patched that, whenever, back in the day. So that's a bit of a misconception that I've seen. What was patched was NTLM relay, where the origin host is the same as the destination host, and the protocol on both sides is the same. So the scenario they fixed was like, if I'm an attacker and I'm attacking, this one computer, and I trick that computer to authenticate to me over SMB, then I take that same SMB handshake and throw it back at the same computer that tried to authenticate to me. You can't do that anymore. They fixed that. But what they didn't fix was, I can go from one computer, like I can take you as the victim, like just actually in the picture up on the slide. So there's a client, attacker, and server. I can relay the NTLM authentication over to another third machine, or I can actually relay the authentication back to the same machine that sent it to me, as long as I do it over a different protocol, because NTLM authentication it's more than just SMB. You know, NTLM authentication is used for HTTP, SMB. I think RDP uses it. Like tons and tons of things use it. So you can still do that cross-protocol relay, which is interesting. So I'm going to go over just an attack scenario here, typical attack scenario. So like I showed in that Wireshark example, you know, a user, just some user is trying to search for something in Internet Explorer, so they type their search term cats into their browser bar. Internet Explorer is going to try to authenticate with NTLM over HTTP. You can actually reflect that authentication back to the SMB listener on that machine and gain a shell. For anyone interested in seeing more of this kind of stuff, the responder.py, Zack attack, and the Metasploit framework all have, you know, like implementations of these sorts of attacks. All right, so now we'll get into some of the interesting stuff. This is the basic outline of our privilege escalation attack. There are a few challenges that we had to kind of overcome to get it to actually work, but, you know, points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are, this is what it does. So first we NBNS spoof ourselves. So you're on a machine and you're trying to get, you know, NT authority system level access from a low privilege user. So you first want to NBNS spoof yourself and redirect WPAD to 127001. Then you're going to spin up a local HTTP server on port 80, which you can totally do as a low privilege user. And for any HTTP request that is not for the WPAD file, redirect it to, you know, some URL that you track. For any request to that URL, request NTLM authentication, and then relay that NTLM authentication back to localhost on the SMB listener. And, you know, create a new service, run that service, PsExec. That's exactly what PsExec does. So the challenges here were MBNS spoofing as a low privilege user on a Windows machine. How can you do that? Because you can't sniff network traffic, so how are you going to answer NBNS replies? Usually MBNS spoofing relies on that. Running an HTTP server as a low privilege user without getting blocked by Windows Firewall, it's actually super easy. I'll go over how we did it. Now, this was the tricky part, number 3, getting a high privilege account on the machine to make a request through that WPAD proxy. So that was kind of the trick to this whole thing, and we'll go over for every version of Windows that we got this working on, how we were able to do that. And the 4th challenge was actually just packaging all this crap up and getting it to work. That was probably the hardest part. So for anyone who thinks a lot of this stuff probably sounds a little bit familiar, the inspiration for the project came from Google Project Zero. They did something similar. They used local WebDAV. They were using WebDAV instead of all this other weird stuff. Their thing worked on Windows 7 with Windows Defender, and it was pretty cool. Windows 8, that's right. Windows 8 with Windows Defender. I don't know if it works anymore. They released a proof of concept, but it didn't actually pop shells. So we decided to go and try to get this working on all versions of Windows and actually get some shells. So in the next section here, I'm going to just go over, so I listed out those 4 challenges. I'm going to just go over how we got past all of those, because that was like the actual meat of this project. So localhost MBNS spoofing. How the heck do you do that when you don't already have local admin? Windows sends and receives NBNS on UDP port 137. As a low privilege user, you can't sniff. You don't have access to that. You can't sniff the network. So what are you going to do? So anyone who remembers DNS spoofing and the whole source port randomization thing, that all applies to NBNS as well. It's a UDP protocol. It's anyone can just like flood packets and spoof things. And the only protection here is just like in DNS, there's a thing called it's TXID is what they call the field in the packet. So in the request, there's a TXID, and in the response that we're trying to spoof, that has to match. It turns out the TX ID is only 2 bytes and has 65,000 possible values. So especially if we're just flooding packets on the loopback adapter, we can totally do like 65,000 a second, or we don't even have to go that fast, but we can easily. And we always know the source port because it's UDP 137. So basically, to do this, localhost MBNS spoofing, all we're doing is flooding MBNS replies for a given host name, like in this case WPAD. We're just going to flood localhost and keep incrementing that TXID field in the packet and hope that it hits. This just shows an example of one of these, of just like an MBNS. I think it's a response packet in Wireshark. So you can see the TXID field is down here. And it's both source and destination port are 137. All right, so I'm going to look at an example. So this is kind of cool. E. Goldstein is a low privilege user, and Dade is a domain admin in this example. So in the top part, in the top screenshot there, I'm running our exploit, which we called potato.exe, and I have it doing the MBNS spoofing stuff. So it's spoofing the hostname WPAD to 127.0.0.1. Then in the bottom screenshot, I'm logged into the same machine with a domain admin account, and he pings 127.0.0.1. He pings the host WPAD, and it comes back 127.0.0.1. So you can see that it actually worked. All right, so challenge number 2, HTTP server without admin on port 80. Super easy. So .NET restricts the system.net.hp listener for non-admins to port 80, but you can just not use .NET and spin up a different HTTP server. So I used a library in C# called nhttp, and there's no problems. Like, you just don't have to worry about it. All right, so here was the tricky part. So now we've basically got we've got this MBNS spoofer running. We've got an HTTP server running on port 80. Now we have to have somehow like trick a local system, like an account or a process with system privileges on the machine to make a request and proxy it through our web server, so we can like relay those credentials to the SMB listener. And this is operating system dependent. So we have to find services or processes that actually, for some crazy reason, are looking for that wpad.dat file and using the proxy settings specified there for any HTTP requests they make outbound. So in our setup here, we use default installations of all operating systems. No configuration changes were made. And proxy settings for the user that we were running this as, we're all set to automatically detect settings, but this doesn't matter, and it really shouldn't matter. Like, why should a low privilege user, their proxy settings in IE affect, what system process they're doing? But it's Windows, so we left it on the default, because who knows? All right, so I'm going to go over how we did this on Windows 7. It was pretty easy. Windows 7 seems pretty happy to use the WPAD file for everything, even when it's not supposed to. For some reason, it still seems to look for that wpad.dat on the WPAD host. So all we did was, so we ran our exploit. It was spoofing the hostname WPAD and serving up that proxy config file at hp wpad.dat. I think you can see in the screenshot kind of what's going on if you read through the, if you would read through each line, but I'll walk through it. So we ran Windows Defender and checked for updates. And Windows Defender made its HTTP request through our local server, and then basically popped a system shell for us. So yeah, I actually have a video demo of that. Sweet. I think it's playing. I'm going to skip through this a bit because it's a little bit long. There's talking and stuff in it, which you guys aren't going to hear. So here I'm just checking the net local group. I'm just showing that the current user is not a local admin right now. And just grab the IP address of my machine because that's one of the arguments to the tool we built here. So I'm typing out disable exhaust. That's, I'm not even going to explain that. That was just something I was messing with while I was developing this, and it doesn't really have much bearing on the actual exploit. So the command I'm going to have the PsExec run is going to add the current user to the local administrators group. So it's running. This tool automatically, it fires off the check for Windows Defenders updates from the command line, so it'll do that for you. So Windows Firewall popped up, but if you see in the terminal on the left, it already ran. So we already have local admin. I eventually... So I bailed out of it, I hit no, and then I eventually hit cancel. I'm just bad at computers. It takes me a while to do this. There we go. And then when I check net local group administrators, boom, he's in there. So there you go for Windows 7. I think that was on my corporate VM too, which is patched all the time. All right, so we're going to go on to Server 2008. This one was fun. So Windows Server doesn't come with Windows Defender, but really all we were doing is checking for, basically we were just checking for Windows updates. It was Windows Defender updates, but Windows updates, what's the difference? It's a little different, but turns out it still works. Some weirdness that happened here is, so all of these machines were joined to a domain. For some reason, it didn't want to use wpad. It wanted the fully qualified domain name. It was looking for wpad.emc.local, which is our stupid test domain. So whatever, that's fine. The tool that we built here can accommodate that. You can just tell it what you want to spoof for. And I guess I'll show that demo next. Is that playing?
Yeah, it's playing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I basically go through the same thing again. Who am I? EMC, Goldstein, NetGroup, local group administrators. He's not in that group. What am I typing there? Oh, and then I also went net user eGoldstein /domain just to show you that he's also not in any of the groups that are local admins. So now I'm typing out the command to use for potato.exe here on Windows Server 2008. So I'm going to use that same command. I'm going to add him to the local admins group. So this time I typed out disable Defender because, like I said, it automatically checks for Windows Defender updates. Well, there is no Windows Defender here, so that's kind of pointless. Oh, and like I said before, I have to specify what host. So instead of just spoofing wpad, I need to spoof wpad.emc.local. Cool. So now it's running. So now all I'm going to do is check for Windows updates, and Windows should try to use those proxy settings, and there you go. The system account authenticates back to me. I relay that authentication to the local SMB listener, and now that guy's in the local admins group. Okay, so this one was Windows 10 and Server 2012. It looks like they actually kind of cleaned up their act. It was a bit tougher. Totally a fluke that we even found this. So in all the test environments, we left the WinHTTP proxy settings to default. So this is how you're supposed, like if you wanted Windows Update to go through a proxy, you would set WinHTTP proxy settings. So you can see this little screenshot here. NetSH, WinHTTP, show proxy, direct. No proxy server. So that's how these were all set up. And it seems like in Windows 10 and Server 2012, if you have it set that way, for the most part, the Windows services actually do go direct and don't use a proxy. Yeah, so one advantage of being disorganized is that one is always having surprising discoveries. That's exactly what happened here. I'll explain how we found it. So basically, like, I just left the exploit running on our server 2012 box, and I ran out for the evening. Totally forgot, like I just closed out of RDP and ran out. And I came back the next day, and I had a system shell. Like, I had worked all day trying to get this to work, and I couldn't get anything working, and I just came back, and there it is. So... So what the heck happened? So we had to obviously do a little bit of investigation. Luckily, I had some like debugging output being printed from the thing, so we kind of found out what was going on. So Windows has this new-ish automatic updater of untrusted certificates. I'm going to link like to the MSDN article for this in the blog post we do about this stuff, which is actually already up on the Foxglove security blog, I guess. But basically, what happened was. It was trying to do these certificate updates sometime during the evening. It tries to pull down this file, this URL that you see here, disallowedcertctl.cab. So you can see in the screenshot, it did that GET request, and then the whole thing went through. It like relayed the authentication, the SMB listener, and popped a system shell. And it runs once a day, and it seems like this is the only thing we could find. And there are probably other things out there, but this is the only thing we found in the short time we allocated to researching this, where Windows 10 and Server 2012 and all the new versions of Windows, for some reason, this crazy service still tries to use the WPAD proxy settings, even when Windows is set to direct internet access. All right, so I'll go through the demo of that one. So one problem with this exploit is we never actually found a way to... Is that right? Okay. It's just laggy at the start. We never found a way to trigger this manually. Like, we can trigger it manually, but you have to enter your admin credentials. But if you just wait, for up to 24 hours, worst case, it will trigger at some point by itself. I confirmed this by, I did this like 3 times, left it running overnight, and sure enough, every time it would trigger. And in the video, I'm going to cheat just a little bit, and I'll show you guys how to get this to fire off, because I didn't want to like record for 24 hours and then crop it out. Yeah, we're going to be here a while. All right, so I just went through the same thing, checking the user, making sure he's not already an admin, all that good stuff. Now running the exploit. So this machine's IP is 10.0.15. I'm going to add that guy to the local admins group again. Disabling the Windows Defender update check. Okay, so there it goes. I just pinged WPAD just to make sure the MBNS spoofer was working properly. And also something about that, the MBNS spoofing thing, it's awesome. It works. It's like 100% effective, at least against localhost. Super effective. Power level over 9,000. Okay, so what I'm going to do to cheat is I actually changed the system clock to the next day, and I had to provide admin credentials to do this. But if you just left this running, I promise you it does work. All right, so here we go, Christmas. Shells for Christmas. Come on. Boom, like as soon as you hit the button. And you can see it's for that thing, CTLDL, disallowed certs.cab. Honestly, I have no idea why that particular part of Windows Update still uses the WPAD file, even when it's not supposed to. And in a second in the video, I think I actually I double checked the WinHTTP settings just to make sure it was set to direct. How much longer is in this video? I can kind of skip a bit. Just to Oh, I'm typing. Yeah, so over on that terminal on the on your left-hand side. So it's all set to direct. So it totally shouldn't be doing that, but it still does. Cool. So that was pretty much it for the exploits. Challenge number 4. So making all this stuff work. The only reason this was really difficult to throw together was because, a lot of existing tools didn't seem to do HTTP to SMB relay well. SMB relay 3 should do it. It's worked for me previously. It just wasn't working for me here. I'm not sure why. So we, decided to roll our own thing. If someone wants to try getting this whole thing working with SMB relay 3, maybe you can. Not a ton of great libraries seem to exist to interact with CIFS and SMB in this way. So there is a good one that's written in Java, and that's what we ended up using. We ended up taking, it's called JCIFS, and porting it over to C# and adding a whole bunch of stuff to it to get it to do the stuff we needed to do. I don't know, maybe there's a better way to do it, but that's what we did, and it worked. And we found Windows can be flaky and inconsistent, so, like all those different things we had to do for different versions of the OS, that took forever to get right. All right, so what we're releasing today, and what I think Justin has already posted to GitHub and the blog and stuff. So we're releasing like all the source code for all this stuff. The source code for all the libraries we use, so the JCIFS library, which is capable with some modifications. So the library is capable now to do HTTP to SMB relay, and you can like use the code for the potato.exe project to find out how to use it to do that. This code was kind of like scrounged together from a few different places. So the Project Zero guys made a few modifications to that JCIFS library in Java, and then I took that and ported it to C# and did a few extra things to it to make it do PsExec and all that good stuff. So whoever wants to work with that, feel free. It's tons of fun. I don't think so. 1 second. Yeah, so now we get into the bonus round of this talk, semi-related to the topic of privilege escalation, but not really, just like came out of this project, so I figured I'd throw it in here. It's the new network attack. So it's we implemented this as an extension to the responder.py tool. Oh wait, maybe I did skip a slide. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the first step of the exploit. So remember the localhost MBNS spoofing, how we were like brute forcing that TX ID in the packet? Well, there's nothing to stop you from nothing except network speeds and congestion and all that stuff to stop you from doing that to any host anywhere. So it's kind of cool. Like you can do if you use this, you can do MBNS spoofing to any host to which you can talk to UDP port 137. You could even try it on hosts on the internet. It might look like a denial of service attack, but you could give it a shot. I've had it work internally on some networks. It's still a bit noisy, but if you're not breaking anything, then why not? Yeah, so basically all you're doing is flooding a target host with MBNS response packets, and you're just incrementing that TX ID, and you're hoping like you can pick a host that you know they're going to be looking for, like WPAD or like I don't know. There are a few common ones. Like if you sniff in Wireshark on a network and you look at like what kind of MBNS requests are being made on your local broadcast segment, you could look at those, and then you could say, oh well, I bet that on this other network segment at this same client, there's probably this target server that I want to hit. He's probably making that same request. So you just flood him with replies for that request, and it actually does work. And I have a video that I'm going to show. So yeah, it's noisy, but it works. In the demo setup that we have for the video, it's all kind of virtualized. So I have a pfSense firewall. The 10.0.0.0 network is the corporate LAN, simulated corporate LAN. 10.0.1.0 is kind of like the server network. And from the corporate network, I'm going to attack one of the machines on the server network. So let's go back to video mode. All right, cool. So this is the modified version of Responder that we're going to be running. So that's my IP address of the machine that's going to be doing the attacking. Oh, I just did a trace route to show that he was on, like a different network, so I had to jump through the firewall. That's the machine. This is the Windows server that we're going to be attacking, and the host name we're going to be trying to spoof is Ninjas. So I'm going to ping Ninjas and show that the request times out. All right, so this is the extension to the Responder tool. So it's I added the spoof flag. So I'm going to spoof, I'm going to send packets to 10.0.1.5. The MBNS response is going to say that it's 10.0.0.2, and then we're just going to flood that MBNS response. And now if we ping Ninjas again, it works. So you actually get like... What's that? Someone in the front saying something? So that's it. I guess I finished a little bit early. I guess I went through the videos a little faster than I expected. But does anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah? No, actually, I didn't look at that. So the question was, if we looked at the behavior, if the system proxy settings for Windows Update or WinHTTP were actually already set to something. No, I didn't look at that, and I'm not sure how it would behave. It could totally ignore the WPAD stuff, or maybe, it's already supposed to be ignoring WPAD, so maybe it still uses it. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that. So the question was, if you have SSL enabled for your update server on the network, would it interrupt this attack? So I think the WPAD stuff would still work, but the Windows Update, if you're forcing SSL, the Windows Update stuff might fail, yeah. So I don't know. Like, I would guess that Windows probably does validate that cert, so you can't just have like but yeah, I don't know. I haven't tested it. I don't think it would work. Maybe. Yeah. Anything else? In the back, yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so the question was about the addition to Responder. We're going to be releasing that. We actually already released it on the Foxglove Security blog, foxglovesecurity.com. So, that we have a blog post on all this stuff, and we link to our GitHub page where we released all the code, and that includes the addition to the Responder tool. So it would be cool, like, if someone at Responder actually merged that in, but, I mean, they can do what they want. It's up to them. Is there anything else, or is that it? Oh, yeah, one more. So the question was about the ACLs between the corporate and server networks. I actually specifically allowed in that case UDP 137. So the situation is, and what we see at a lot of clients, is that you'll have a server and a corporate machine on a different broadcast domain, but there won't actually be any firewall rules between them. So that's kind of the situation we built this for. It's not really for, like, it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to say allow UDP 137 when they actually have a real firewall that's doing any sort of real filtering. But what we see a lot is there's a machine we want to attack, and we can hit every single port, but it's just on a different broadcast domain. So that's kind of the attack vector that this would be most commonly used for. All right, thanks a lot, guys.